What's up, everybody? It's Goddess Z, and I'm here with another podcast episode on Holistic and Spiritual AF. Welcome back, fam. If you're tuning in again, I appreciate each and every one of you. The podcast is growing, classes are growing, the community's growing, and that's all because of listeners like you. And if this is your first time hopping on the podcast, you are definitely in the right spot. If you like to hear about topics such as healing, connecting with your ancestors, metaphysics, like all sorts of things, esoteric and mind, body, spirit. Okay, we do all that over here. And on the first and the third Friday of the month at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I have a guest coming in sharing their wisdom and expertise, like today. And on the second and the fourth Fridays of the month, I come in with my downloads and transmissions as well. Okay, so every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can count on a podcast episode dropping here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, and pretty much anywhere that podcasts are syndicated. Okay. And today we're having a guest. We're having an amazing guest. Okay. This is episode, oh gosh, I think it's 73. Don't quote me on that. Pay attention to what the title says. Okay. Today's guest is going to be Kat Niambi, also known internationally as the Hungry Medium, for a grounded and honest conversation about what real spiritual work actually looks like. Okay. Kat is a renowned internationally as the Hungry Medium, an accomplished spiritual activist. She's a vessel for transformative soul searching and healing enlightenment. By sharing her remarkable gift of hearing spirit, Kat has played a pivotal role in empowering hundreds of clients, mainly Black women, with the guidance to find clarity, focus, and direction in their day to day lives. Together, we'll be talking about spiritual hygiene and why it matters when you're doing deep work, creating spiritual homes and ethical community space, psychedelics and the responsibility and healing journeys, mentorship and guidance versus spiritual isolation, and what doing the work really means beyond the buzzwords. Okay, this episode is not about shortcuts or aesthetics, it's about integrity, accountability, and staying rooted while healing. If you've been navigating your own healing journey or holding space for others, then this conversation will meet you right where you are. Okay, so this is going to be one of them deep episodes that here we go again. This one had to be a part two. We got to have a part two and have her back as well. So make sure that you listen to this podcast all the way to the end. Check out the all the links down in the description. Okay, I've got another class that's coming up next month. Lots of information that's going to be coming out on the holistic and spiritual AF side of things. And then I also have Kat, aka the Hungry Medium, her information and where you can find her and how you can contact her as well. Okay, so with that being said, I am going to go ahead and jump into today's episode. All right. Thank you so much, Kat, aka the Hungry Medium. I really appreciate you agreeing to do this podcast episode with me. I know my audience is really going to enjoy you. You're bringing a different flavor, but some of the same, but different, and I love this for us. And so, yeah, like I was saying before the podcast, I have been following you for a while on Substack, and I wanted to have you a guest in 24. And whatever, things work out in divine timing like they're supposed to. Then I bumped into you again on Instagram, and you were doing your thing over there, and Spirit was like, okay, it's time to have her on the podcast. So I'm happy that you're here. And you're doing some amazing work out there in the community. You're talking about a variety of things of doing the work, and we're going to get into that later. But definitely spiritual hygiene, spiritual homes and community, very important, psychedelics, mentorship, and the healing journey. So I always like to start with my guests and just say, ask you guys, how did this journey get started for you? Like, how did you become the Hungry Medium?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all, Goddess Z. I appreciate the outreach. A lot of people, we were talking earlier about who gets it and who doesn't. And, when I'm formulating messaging, I'm at the stage in my life now where I really just listen to spirit about what needs to be said. And if it's picked up by two people, that's fine. If it's picked up by 2,000 people, that's fine as well. It's to me, it's vibration, and I start, I didn't have that information in me to even say, oh, I want to start by raising the vibration of the collective. I those words weren't in my vernacular. Um, the way that I started was probably from childhood, speaking my mind as a psychic medium, unknown, in regards to, I would never call myself that. I'm in a group now that I facilitate. We call ourselves spiritual nerds, the little girls with the glasses under the covers, with a Ouija board, or loving really esoteric, weird, mystical television shows and movies. We are all connected in that way. We've always felt mystery in our bones. We've always felt mysticism in our bones. And a lot of us are born with placements that say she's someone who's going to be doing spiritual work. So, the brand, the Hungry Medium, started in around 2017, 18. I'm in the Yoruba Lukumi tradition. I'm a crown priest of Obatala. And as you may know, when you first enter an African traditional religion, one of the things they really want you to work on is your spiritual development. It's like it's key, because before any initiation, you need the sort of sign off and endorsement and blessings from your ancestors and your guides and protectors. And the brand, the Hungry Medium, the idea of me actually reading other people to help them on their spiritual journeys never crossed my mind. It was me joining an ATR was really about my spiritual development and being obedient to the divine in regards to my path. But there was an elder who I often sat spiritual meetings with, whose ancestors, spiritual guides, used to always tell me I'm supposed to be doing this work for other people. And I was resistant. I was reluctant. That's part of the work that we're going to talk about. Which, just alluding to that, knowing yourself, knowing your purpose is one of the first steps in the work, right? So at that time, I didn't know my purpose. I just knew that I was doing what was obvious, it seemed, to be involved in a spiritual community. So, what brought me to the Hungry Medium was obedience to the divine. And when I say the divine, I'm speaking of all those spiritual, energetic beings that walk with us here in the earthly realm.
I love that. That was so well done, and that was real, because we don't know sometimes. Like, we don't know everything. That's the journey. Like, you got to go on the journey to know. And you start out by talking about you was this kid that spoke your mind, and you was reading people in a medium all over the place, but you still didn't know that. You just thought you were outspoken and just, you're
They
not going to
call,
go
there's a
along to get
name,
along.
precocious. They
Yeah,
love saying, "Oh, she's fresh.
exactly.
Mind your
Exactly.
business."
Yeah, but I love how you talked about your journey and how you went for your own spiritual development, and out of that came you, who you always were, but the
Yes,
more developed version of you. And
yes,
and you're a priestess, and you always were a priestess. So
yes,
I
yes.
love that. So, that explains everything. Like the fact that you're the thing that you said at the beginning, the reason why they picked you.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's awesome, and I love that. So with the work that you do, I mean, because I'm sure you do a lot, but definitely with on the medium side of things,
Mm-hmm.
um, like how does spiritual hygiene fit into that? Like for you, like how important is that?
Yes. That is also something I can say I learned through my experience in an African traditional religion. Uh, and I'm always fascinated now that I've been in this. I haven't been initiated for 18, 19 years, but I was in the tradition. I entered the tradition 18, 19 years ago, 2007. I've been initiated for 11, almost 12 years now. But I always am fascinated by this idea of, once you learn what's needed in order for you to tap into spirit, it's something that needs to be a part of your routine.
Mm.
And I noticed that a lot of people, I have friends out there who they're pretty gifted. They're not necessarily in this biz. They may be astrologers or, something like that, right?
Right.
And they really don't know things about covering your head, when you're around a lot of people and at events, the spiritual events. Maybe they don't know about taking spiritual baths, or even the concept, if you don't have the herbs, of when you're in the shower, of praying, because all you really need is water.
Mhm.
All you really need is water and prayer when it comes down to it. But this idea of spiritual hygiene, continuing to take your baths, continuing to clean off, continuing to use herbs to do so if you don't have those kinds of things, uh, figuring it out, listening to spirit to figure out how to clean yourself off. To me, spiritual hygiene for me deals mostly in the cleanliness, the cleaning off of, I don't even want to say bad energy. You know what I like to say? The energy that doesn't belong to me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because I don't really feel like there's this bad and good energy. I feel like there's positive and negative energy. And negative energy, and there's a balance, right? We have a lot of people who are into the love and light, love and light. And I was talking to one of my mentees last night, and I was just like, sometimes I have to dip into the love and dark. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Sometimes, sometimes the dark is needed in that love. And so I don't want to, I don't think you can walk. I don't even know yet if I want to be that person walking the earth fully clean. Is that possible? Fully cleansed, fully cleansed. Not sure I want to be there. Not even sure if it's possible. But the hygiene part, I think, is something that everyday people should be aware of. I think a lot of spiritualists are completely aware of this, but if you have anyone in your audience who's just everyday people, you know what I mean? And everyday people, those people need to know about keeping themselves clean, wearing light colors on some days, so that you're not absorbing negative energy, you're reflecting it off of you. And that's what I feel is one of the most popular workshops, conversations with lay people that I seem to have is spiritual hygiene.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I'm glad you talked about a lot. The prayer and the water is all you need. Like that is and that is the easiest way to make it a routine. You taking a shower every day or just shower or a bath, just making that a part of, and like you said, we can never be fully clean. I don't think that's possible. We go places, the house may not be as clean as it need to be. You back in an atmosphere that's not clean. Somebody comes in your house, and if
You
you
run
don't
the
know these
floor.
things, yeah, yeah. So I look at it just like we have to take a bath every day. Same thing with spiritual hygiene. It has to be
Yes,
something that is practice and
yes,
different levels of it. Sometimes there's just the daily routine. Sometimes
yes,
just okay, now I'm gonna get the herbs out and do the
yes,
soak and
yes,
do some other things, whatever it is my ancestors tell me to do. So
yeah,
it's vital. Like I can't even
yes,
imagine not doing it, but you're right. Everyday people can do this. You don't have to be
everyday
initiated
people.
in nothing. You can start there
Yeah.
and removing the things that don't belong to you. And something else I do as well is call my power back, from places
Yes,
that maybe
yes,
I started incorporating the two of those. And also something that my ancestors have me doing too is digital spaces. They're
oh,
like you're
absolutely.
they like now that you out there and you in all these different places and frequencies, and I couldn't understand there
Yes,
was, stuff being siphoned from people, and I
yes,
had to learn that. They was like, listen, you need to protect all of this IP you got out. That's an extension
yes,
of you as well. So,
yes. Even being on camera with
yep.
rooms full of people. When you do the IGs lives and you do the TikTok lives or whatever lives you're doing, there is, and that is how I discovered I could even read people over the airwaves. You know, back in the day, it was, you know, you had to find a place to meet up in person.
True.
And what I learned in 2020 is what really set it off is this idea of frequencies and energies being felt through the airwaves, you know, through the 5G, 4G, LTE, whatever you got. That is a thing, you know. And I wanted to mention something about the hygiene. You mentioned it too. It's about your home being clean. Something as simple as opening a window in your home to let the air circulate or fan or something. There's levels to it, but it's against things that everyday people can do. But we need to be careful, definitely practitioners who do this work in spaces where there's a lot of energy. The Zoom calls, you see it. Why are you so exhausted when you get off a Zoom call from your job? Because you are absorbing the energy. When they say things like, oh, I want all screens on, I'm like, not mine, not mine.
Exactly. I'd be trying to get out of them. I'm like, is this necessary? Is this something that an
Right,
email could
right.
could be said in an email? Like,
All
is
them faces. No, I'm good.
yeah, absolutely. I love that though. And the opening the windows, that's something I think is super easy. You know, when the weather permits. And a lot of this stuff is what our ancestors were doing. Recent ancestors, you know, were
Yeah,
doing. Your grandmama go to spring clean. They're gonna open all the windows. They're gonna
yeah. I
sweep all
mop
the
that
stuff out the
floor.
house, that mop that floor, you know. And I'm
Mhm.
grateful because I know I got my ancestors in my ear all day. So they'll be like, I know you're not gonna go another day without washing them floors. My grandmama don't play. She,
I know. And they speak, I spoke about this the other day in my Substack, how the evolution of their voices change over time. You ever notice that?
yeah.
Yeah, because if you've known them, you hear that voice that you know them with, right? And then over time, it kind of changes a little bit. I feel like it's not even their voice anymore. I know a lot of people hear ancestors and they say different ancestors come to them. Right now, for me, actually for the entirety of my mediumship, it's always more like a hive mind collective. I don't really know how to explain that, but it's almost like this buzzing, like bees, of one voice with one message, no
Mhm.
particular individual, but with a signature of a particular individual, if that makes sense.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it does. I've never heard that before, but I think that's very interesting. It sounds like a vibrational kind of frequency tone that
Yeah.
is specific for you.
Yeah.
Like nobody's
Yeah,
gonna.
yeah. People used to
Yeah.
say that all the time, like, "Oh, how do you hear them?" You know, the clairvoyant, clairaudient, clair. I was like, I don't know. I don't know anything about these clairs. I mean,
That's new.
I literally didn't know anything about the names of things. The young people along the way have taught me so much about what things are called, you know, and I appreciate them for that because I never had words for what I do.
Yeah, I love that. So with the mediumship, and you've said you've been doing this for a while, and it just became more developed as you start working on yourself and
Mhm.
being in the ATRs. So how does that like show up for you? Are they just all the time talking to you? You're getting messages, or is it like you're having a session, a consultation with somebody? Like, how does that work for you?
I think that's part of the development that I went through when I first entered. So before ATRs, again, I didn't know what to call it. I did sit a couple of spiritual meetings before, you know, we call them misas or centros, and some people call them seances, the European term seance. Um, I really didn't know. I had an imaginary friend, right? When you're little, your imaginary friend. Um, as I once I entered the spiritual community or my spiritual home, it was a little bit clearer about how it kind of worked for me. Walking the streets, not necessarily, again, it's this kind of intuitive voice. Some people will say intuition. I think my intuition is very much tapped into my ancestors. And then for me, there's the separation between ancestors vibration and my own spirit guides and protectors, the ones that I'm born with, that I believe come back with me in every iteration, almost like a team. You know what I mean? Like, okay, what are we doing in this lifetime, guys? Well, and then they speak with a different frequency. They speak to me through intuition. Ancestors speak, and I always point to them because I'm always doing these interviews or lives with them, pictures and everything, because they do, in our tradition, this is where we believe they sit, right? And so I can almost feel, not almost, there is a feeling right here when messages are coming from them. So when you ask that question, it kind of depends. If it's um, mediumship for other people, is typically coming from my ancestor hive mind, because I really feel like my ancestor hive mind taps into clients, for instance, their people. They have energetic conversations and they bring it to me to help the client see what they need to see. I feel like my guides and protectors are for me. You
Right.
know what I mean? This is how you need to walk. My ancestors are for me as well, but because my particular purpose here on earth is to help other people, they tap into that as well. They support that role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's almost like there'll be that liaison too between,
Yes,
so
we
yeah, they still need to be in there. Like,
You know why? Because they are there as protectors too, and they can't allow all kinds of nonsense to make its way through the portal of
yeah,
messaging. When I'm getting messaging from other people, I have to get permission from them before I read anybody. So that's a lot of asking. Is it okay? Is it okay? A lot of divining about every single person that I would have to read. So if they say no, that's a no.
exactly.
Give you a refund. Here you go. Here's your money back. They said no, sorry.
Right. That's a
Um,
small price to pay.
yeah, they know whose energy cannot be allowed into my psyche, my cipher, my realm, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I love that. You the same with mine. And I love the fact that a lot of that has to do with the spiritual hygiene practices. That's a must.
Yeah.
Like that's a must. If you want to have that clear channel, you got
Mhm.
to make sure that you cleansing and clearing and doing stuff. And that way you can hear them
Yeah.
and begin to trust them.
Yeah.
And I love that because you the same. I don't if they say no about something, it just.
Yeah.
I don't care if my feelings gonna get hurt because
Yeah.
especially when it when it has come, not anymore. I've learned my
Yeah.
lesson. When it came to men,
Uh-huh.
and I would
Oh,
when it came to men,
non-existent,
they
girl.
would be like, "No, ma'am," and I would be mad and sulking and pouting, and they would be
Mad
like,
and
"You can,"
spoken and pouting.
they would be like, "You could be mad right now, but you're gonna thank
Yeah.
us later."
Or negotiation, because that comes into play.
Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
give you some cake or something?
No, right? They're like, "No, that's gonna lower your frequency." No.
No cake,
Yep.
no nothing. We
No,
nothing,
nothing.
nothing, nothing. And
Yep.
if it's that serious, you just have to suck it up. And that is it, that in the work, and doing the work and doing this and having clients, that is what's the word term I'm looking for? It's almost like saying that's it. There's no negotiation there. There is like, I forget the term, but it's basically saying no. and
Right.
there's nothing you can give us to make us say yes. And it may be hard to do that as a, everyday people, but as a practitioner whose livelihood, and I just don't mean money, I mean your literal life depends
Mhm.
on this. There's psychological aspects to being a healer, um, that can be impeded by energies that come through to suck you. You know what I'm
Yep.
trying to say here?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm just making sure, because
Absolutely.
it's like this is dangerous. This is
It
not,
is.
you gonna have a bad night with homeboy. This mean this person is a danger to you.
Yep. Yep. And I appreciate that today, like that having that what I call spiritual counsel, like being able to help to guide me and protect me from myself. I was talking about that the
Yes.
other day. I said once again, my ancestors protected me from me.
Yes. We're the number one. We're the number one person that we need protection from, to be honest, because people talk about spiritual attack and all that. That's, if
Right.
it gets in here, whatever they supposedly sent your way is gonna work. If it
Hmm.
doesn't get in here, it's not gonna work.
That's true. That's true. I love that. You said a lot there. We went in on spiritual hygiene and mediumship. So now I want to talk about the healing journey. Like so listening to you and everything you've said, I can tell that your healing journey has been lived and
Mhm.
experienced. This is not some trending topic for you. And you haven't just studied it. So can you share how your own path and the evolution of that, how it continues to expand and grow, is helping you to help others?
Yeah, every time I do a podcast interview, you can almost see the evolution in regards to who I am spiritually, um, definitely experiential wise. If you had spoken to me, I don't know, 5 years ago, pre COVID, you had been speaking to a different kind of person. And in this short amount of time, 5 years, I've seen the most growth in regards to my awareness. And that is, I've been talking about this a lot lately. That is now about the recognition of my wound, which I wasn't really paying attention to pre 2020. Um, I didn't even know about wounds or anything like that. Or, everyone talks about trauma. I didn't even know. Here I am in a spiritual tradition. I know there was some work that needed to be done. I know I needed to listen to Orisha. They helped me along the way, but I didn't have an understanding of my wounds. If you don't have an understanding about where you have the wound, you don't even realize that you're masking. You don't even realize that you are being a people pleaser. You don't even realize that you suffered trauma. You just don't. You're just thinking I'm a regular, everyday people who has a little gift where I do little readings for people, and then I just go about my business. But you don't realize that you are entangled with other personalities, that your own purpose is not being even sought. Forget about being met. It's not being sought because you don't know your purpose, you don't know your wound. And it's not until something happens that it's almost like red pill, blue pill kind of thing. It's a turning point in your life. People may think me joining the tradition was a turning point. Sure. People may think, me being initiated was a turning point. Yes. But that's not even really like a turning point. You know what that is? More like a step. A turning point is when you get that awareness and realization that even with all these things, which I now understand I needed because they became tools to fortify me, being initiated is a fortification for whatever you have to address, whatever you are about to. And I'm using this because it's a lot of warrior
It
energy.
is.
People think Obatala is all love and light. There's warrior Obatalas, right? There's warrior Yemonjas, there's warrior Oshones. And when you have that warrior energy in you, you know that you're a warrior for something. And I didn't have a realization what my fight would be for. And at this stage of my life or the game, I understand now, looking back over the past 5 or 6 years, I needed that warrior energy to fight for me, to fight for my existence, to fight for my development, to fight for my freedom.
Mhm.
You can talk about politics, the world. No, this is within your relationships, within your community. You have to be brave, you have to have courage to make certain tangents and pivots and all these things that you will need to get past the point of where you were last time you were here. If you could call it karma, whatever you want to call it, but you are brought to this earth with a particular mission. They call it a mission. So sometimes a mission has fighting. And that fighting is fighting for your life, fighting for an understanding. So where am I now in that? I am at a section where I've had an awareness at the beginning, 2020, and then there was a whole lot of fight. And when I say that, it's not necessarily arguments, it's literally fighting yourself in many cases to have the courage, fighting um, the mask, fighting the limiting beliefs, fighting your own self, because no one, there are people who are supporting characters in this fight, but at the end of the day, we are the lead actors in the things that we say to ourselves, the negative thoughts, all of those things. Our body is not impacted by the negative thoughts of other people. Going back to what I kind of said about spiritual attacks, you need to be concerned about how you are talking about yourself.
That's so true.
And we fight that. We say, because we've inherited this, Joy DeGruy talks about it, post-traumatic slave syndrome in this current day and age. I think, just the sidebar, black women are dealing with a different kind of thing than black our foremothers in Africa or here in America
Yes.
before the transatlantic slave trade. I'm not saying they didn't have a fight, they didn't have things. Our thing is an inheritance of from white supremacy and oppression. Regardless, if you look like this, you are impacted by it. I don't care what anybody says. You could be married to white people, you could be a product of a black and white person. That melanin causes you to have some sort of trauma that's passed on. So whatever we're dealing with right now is all of that. And so we have a fight.
Yes. Yes. Yes, you said that. I mean, no wonder you right. But you are absolutely right. I love that. I was over here like, mm-hmm. I love these podcast episodes when we go in because this is
Yes,
my spiritual
yes.
this is my spiritual communion, like here. But
Mm,
you talked about a tremendous amount that affects us specifically as Black people, and with the healing that is stored in our DNA, the trauma that's in our epigenetics, and like you said, when you're in survival mode, you don't have a clue because you're in this conditioning, this program to protect yourself, and just kind of get through what you got to get through. So now all of a sudden, when you start to peel back the layers and the layers of yourself, and
yes,
you're like, wait a minute, I got this hole in my soul, like,
yes. Oh,
yeah,
I love
and
that, girl.
yeah, and you have to like really, like you said, really start to dissect that, and that's you getting with you, like
Yes,
that's you
yes.
getting with you.
I, it started in 2020 with this realization of this placement. I wasn't into astrology. I literally knew my sun sign in 2020. I knew nothing else. And then I started to learn, maybe in 2019, I learned about rising and my moon. But 2020, I had a reading by the Global Black Girl, and she introduced me to this concept of Chiron. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And, there wasn't a lot, especially for us, about Chiron. And once I started learning that, guess what my Chiron was all about? A lack of faith in God and the divine and the distrust of God and divine. And that made so much sense to me because I had lost my parents. I had so much loss. And even though I'm in an African traditional religion, this idea of, and I also grew up in the church, I had this concept of God being, someone to fear, not someone who offered counsel or comfort, someone you had to sacrifice yourself for. That's what I thought it was. And when you think about it along those lines, that's a distrust. And my particular Chiron placement is in Pisces at 20 degrees. So it's at the very last degree of the zodiac wheel. And when she told me that, I was like, I don't understand what that means, but I'm going. It basically was supporting what the elder had told me in the spiritual readings, that in the spiritual meetings, that I needed to be doing this work for people, spiritual work. And I was like, okay, I'm already doing it, you know. But that wasn't the end of it, because even if you know the wound, you still have to figure out how to heal the wound. So how does one heal a distrust of God?
Mm,
That's what's been going on. And so it's not like I didn't believe in God. There's a difference. There's a difference. It doesn't talk about belief. It talks about a distrust because of all the sorrow or victimization of the world, of yourself, of the losses you suffered, the hardships you've gone through in life, and you're like, I don't know where God is, where is God? And that question comes up for me anytime there's something transiting on that Chiron that makes me sit there. But in those moments are moments when great growth, great awareness, and great growth occur. So I think that answered your question up until a point where then I would tell you about my psychedelic journey, which flowered the
yeah.
the the whole thing. Like, you don't get the answer right there.
Yeah, tell me about that. That's something I haven't tried psychedelics yet, but definitely my spirit is moving towards that. But I'm trying to gather more information first.
Yes, and I think that's important. I
Yeah.
think a lot of information. I'm hoping, I'm applying for a fellowship. Wish me luck. because that is the story I want to tell. I want to tell the story about people like you and me who work in this field as healers, who also need this extra boost, this extra flowering of awareness. So, um, 2020, of course, and then 2021 came around. I got really into this platform called Clubhouse at the time,
Yeah.
and it just opened up the world. Were you on there?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I was on
Opens
there.
up the well, that's where I feel like I know your name from, actually.
I wasn't in purpose at the time. I was
Oh, you
trying to do
weren't. You
something.
just
I was almost there. I was being a social media strategist for holistic practitioners. My
oh, I
ancestors
really feel like I know your name from that because I was
my
always
ancestors was like,
looking.
you close, but not
You
quite. They like the marketing is for you, not everybody.
was, but you know what? You get it. You
Yeah,
were close, and that's the thing. They take you little by little because at the end of the day, who makes the final decision? You.
that's true.
Because you have to believe it before you can even make one step. You believe in them, you understand, you delved into the marketing of that. That was me being a helper to everybody. Oh, I hope you do this. And everybody's like, even the people you're helping could see it in you.
Right. Yep. Literally, people used to say, I see you more on the healer side, the holistic side. Like these are people who ain't doing nothing with their life, but they know. Like they my ancestors speaking through them because I'm not listening to them.
Because you're not listening. It's because you that I can guarantee you it's attached to your wound. I don't
Yeah.
not gonna read you on here, but I can tell
Yeah.
you it has to do with your Chiron wound. At the end of the day, we walk with our wound. The beautiful part about it is that there is a gift at the end of the rainbow. Once you have the awareness of the wound, you have an acceptance, because people would initially, all I had was an app that I would just put people's Chiron in and I show it to them like, look what it says about you. And then they would be like, some would cry, but some would say, I don't resonate with this. That's what they said when I showed it to them. But you can't not see it after you read it. You may not accept it, but you can't not see it. Double negative. You can't not see it. And so the psychedelic journey, I did my research in Clubhouse. They had a lot of discussions, and I went on the internet and I tried to get into the clinical trials because it was always being done
Right.
by the clinics, co-opted by institutions. You had to be diagnosed with certain things. But then I was put on to a group, I'll put it that way, that was doing it in Baltimore. And my first journey was, it was I talk about this in spaces as well. It, I can definitely look back now to that first journey and know that it opened the way, because when you go into these ceremonies, you should go in with an intentionality, right? What's my intention for this
Yeah.
journey? Now, overall, my intention wasn't for health reasons, which is how it's promoted. Oh, it helps with PTSD and it helps with, it can help cancer patients and things of this, in terms of, because we know there's a connection between um, how much a disease thrives and our mental state.
Yes.
So it's always talked about in that way on television and everything, but you don't rarely see it talked about in regards to spirituality among Black Americans,
That's right.
Black American women who are healers. You don't really hear about that. And there's so many of us who want to take ourselves higher, like Sly and the Family Stone said, I want to take you higher. And when you talked about how do your ancestors speak to you, this is a way that they speak to you
Mhm.
one on one. Okay, that hive mind, it is a hive mind because the mushrooms, the mycelium, they are our ancestors. They are the oldest living beings on earth. They are the earth. We came from where? The ocean, the earth, right? We, mankind. When you experience a psychedelic journey, you're now tapped into that network, and that network shows you what you asked for. So when I walked in, my intentionality was I want truth. I didn't say the truth, I just said truth. And they
They didn't hold back.
didn't hold back. You don't have a full understanding. You come out of it, there's an integration process,
Mhm.
and you initially think it's one thing, but that one experience takes you. You talk about journaling, that journ, that sojourn, that suffix or prefix journ, is that root, is about travel, it's about evolution. And so to me, after, I would say, Yoruba Me tradition, which provided me with many tools, the psychedelic journey was the next level of initiation. And it, I won't even pile it up here anymore, I would put it over here. We're now taking a different direction in the way, because once you take part in the medicine, it never leaves you.
Mm.
It never leaves you. And I wouldn't say it's in my bloodstream, I would say it's embodied.
Mhm.
And from there, I didn't even know I was grieving. So when again, I talk about, I don't even know what the wound is. And then I'm told this Chiron thing is a possible wound. Now this journey is telling me that I'm in grief. My journey was all about me grieving for my mother, or so I thought. But that is how it started. And that takes you to other places. So
Mhm.
now you start to understand your grief, and then you start looking into how to heal grief, literally googling it, literally reading books, literally hearing what has always been around you in the internet streets, right? Because you know how
Right.
it goes. You and I are talking about this, and then all of a sudden you see it on Instagram, right? So now that's how that's how it really works. I'm grieving my mother. Now all this stuff about grief is being shown to me.
Right.
And there's so much more after that. There was the grief journey. Then there was the next journey, actual psychedelic journey I took. You know, some people would, if they had gone through what I went through, they would have never gone on another one. But that's like everything I do. I hope I get a chance to talk to you about family constellations. Because one thing I like to introduce Black women to is other things that we don't know about, because it's so co-opted by the others.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, because you're right. Like when you said when you were talking about the Chiron, I was like, I gotta admit though, I'm very ignorant when it comes to astrology. I just know stuff. Okay. So when
Yes,
everybody's like, oh, it's a Mercury, like I can explain to you what's going on, but I didn't know that it was a Mercury retrograde. but
right.
but it
But that's
equals the
what it
same
is.
thing. Yeah, so
Yes,
that's what it is. But yeah, so
yes.
when you talked about the Chiron, you talked about the astrology, I was like, yeah, there's these are things that I don't hear us talking about. And we stay away from things that we don't trust and people we don't trust. That's
Especially
embedded
we've
in our
been,
DNA.
and we've been indoctrinated, because
Yeah,
many of us, I talked about this in my talk the other day. Many of us grew up in the church, and even
right.
if you decide to leave the church is still in you.
That's true.
That's how, this is a formula. The Bible is the textbook, and the preacher is the professor. And depending on who that professor is, your indoctrination is embedded there. And
Mhm.
again, that is also something we inherit through our DNA as well. Our people went to church most of the time.
Hmm.
That is how they tamed the savage beast. Okay,
Yeah.
through the word. So even if you leave, it doesn't matter because organizations or leaders of organizations are still influenced by how those structures work. There's a main person here who makes the decisions, and then there's a whole culture
Hmm.
around how we interact with one another. It's just how things are done in our society. Even if you've never been to church a day in your life, you are, if you've ever stepped outside of your apartment or house, you are impacted by Christianity.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're some of the most judgmental and in your face and arrogant ones of the bunch. I always say
Yeah.
that, you know,
But
like I
also
was,
they are, also they believe that what
yeah,
they are saying is the word.
I
You know,
know.
their
And that
belief
they
is
have the
so deep.
audacity
Yes.
to
But
convert
everything
folks.
about morality,
Yeah,
morality. Like, how can you take Christian morality and put it into African traditional religion?
right.
It happens. It
Yeah,
happens, especially for religions that had to come through syncretization, where you have
true.
deities on top of Christian or inside of Christian things.
That's true.
It also is a place of patriarchy.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
the women doing all the work, women in charge. Sister so and so is doing all the work in the kitchen, or she's the lead, the mother of the church. But who is giving all the rules in the background about women and body positivity and what women should
Hmm.
wear? What that is in African religions here in
Hmm.
America,
In America.
because we had to receive our knowledge through the curtain, shower curtain, whatever you sheet of white supremacy.
Hmm. That makes sense. You know, I didn't think about that. That answered my question I had on another one where I was like, why did, some of the brothers they adopted the patriarchal kind of concept in traditional I was like, why did y'all pick that one? But you just
You know
said it.
why?
Yeah, I know.
First of all, I mean, I can get into that, girl, but black men have struggled to be in charge for so
Right.
long. Our black men are great by nature. They are born
Yes.
great by nature. I didn't say kings. I said great by nature. We can't
Right.
all be royalty, okay? Some of us just were farmers, tending to the land and
Right.
hunting, okay? But there's an overcompensation. They want to succeed. They want to be seen as powerful because of what we've gone through. We could talk about black
Hmm.
women and all the things we've gone through. Our brothers are also inflicted with wounds where they were emasculated
Right.
by white supremacy. So, with any kind of freedom, some will seek power,
Total
right?
sense.
Wrong. I'm not here
Absolutely
to
right.
tell you. I'm just saying this is how it impacts us all as the family unit. Our rules, all of our rules and things we learned from the past are no longer here because everybody can't be a chief. Everybody's not a king. First of all, the divine feminine was here first.
Thank you. That's that's where I was going with that, And so with
And how
all of
did we
this
get here? I always say that. How did we get here? I want to sing that song. How did you get here? I
that
don't know.
was how that's where I was going because and they know that. I'm not talking about the ones I get what you talk about, the unhealed, the wounded, the ones who ain't never done no work, but the ones that know and still like, okay, we're gonna hang on to this piece of white supremacy.
Yeah,
That's
because
the part.
they, just like we were talking about, they're not going to listen. They're
Right.
not going to listen. They don't. They overload. There's a balance of no. I must. there's an override to common sense. There's override to it, it's like, no, I can't listen to common sense anymore. I came from a woman, but I need to be in charge. You need to be in charge of the being that created you. Okay.
Right.
that's like
Exactly.
that's like me saying, no, God, I'm in charge.
Exactly. But you know what? We're going through our lessons as a result of it.
Yeah.
We're having our lessons, and
And we have our choices now too, and we
that's
make
right.
better choices as women, as and the divine feminine. The more that we start to make better choices, and that better choice could be to be alone,
Yep.
believe it or not. Say what you want to say about the sanctity of marriage and all those things, not at the detriment of me.
That's right. And I see that with every time I go back home and my family's like, "Well, you ain't got nobody, you ain't nobody." And I'm looking at their trail of tears with they men that they still with. And I'm like, I like my peace over here. I
Yeah,
like being able to be fully embodied divine feminine without somebody getting
yeah,
competitive and jealous because I did
yeah,
the work and they didn't.
yeah,
It's like I want
yeah.
to eat what I want to eat and make it for myself.
I wanna feel good about myself.
Yes.
I wanna approve of myself. And sometimes my picker would pick people that weren't even willing to support that concept.
Yes.
And I will take only partial responsibility for that. But now my picker is really good because my picker knows that I come first.
Mhm.
My needs and who I am come first. They have to, in order to be in relationship in a confident way, so that I don't need someone else to
That's
tell
right.
me. Everybody say, "Oh, fill me." No, yeah, sure, but you're not going to override all this work that I've just done,
I know that's
and
right.
knowing who I am for real, for real.
Yep. Yeah, it took
That's
a good.
another gospel song. I come this far, how's it go? You come this far from where. It's a whole gospel song, but it's basically saying I came this far. I didn't come this far for the divine to leave me.
Mhm. And
All
that's
that
right.
work to
I
throw it in the
know.
garbage.
You ain't got to tell me. That's what my ancestors was like. They always say that. You could be mad now, but you gonna thank us later. Because I'd be mad. I'm like, man, when is it gonna be? And they like, the more you keep elevating and growing, somebody's got to meet you where you at. We can't have nobody.
Somebody, right? Somebody's coming along. Somebody's coming along, and that's not to say that people who are in partnership now uh,
Right.
can't find their way. The most, especially if there's kids involved,
Yeah.
the solution to that is unique to that situation. But I only hope and pray that my sisters out there choose themselves first.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a powerful, powerful statement. And I hope somebody, if they don't get nothing else, they get something out of that,
Yeah,
to have that journey with themselves.
yeah.
So let's see, you talked a lot about doing the work,
Hmm.
living the work. And so people say they're doing the work, and that means different things to different people. And my guests know every podcast episode we say ain't no cheat codes. You gotta do the work, even with meditation, I'm telling people, you got to start from here to get to there and
Yeah,
develop that routine, that practice.
yeah.
So, talk to us about what doing the work means to you.
I'm glad you said to me. Um, Everything we talked about, sure. Of late, so in each one of these moments in time, the work for me, entering the tradition. Let's say I walk in the door now. What is that work? That work is learning obedience, because I didn't even want to go into an African traditional religion because it had been around me since I was 6 years old, over here with a close friend, because a really close friend from childhood family was in the tradition. So I got to see it from the periphery. And I was like, I'm not getting on no floor and saluting people. And what do I have to do? You have to wear a white for a year, and they do what to your head and what? Oh no, I'm not doing it. So it was always that. The work for that was for me getting to a place where I could be more open minded. So that was that job, right? Stop being so judgy. I was in, I wouldn't say trouble when I needed the tradition eventually, but I was in a space of looking for something. My mom and dad were gone, and I needed eldership. I didn't have that. So, and I wanted spiritual eldership because I knew I could feel the divine calling me. I could feel that. But with that distrustful Chiron, I was just saying, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? When the divine finally met me and showed me what was in store for that snippet of time, of course, I'm thinking it's forever. um the work involved there was obedience. The work involved there was tearing down sort of the judgments, the church judgments. I mean, I had been in church watching this religion like, I don't know, you know so once you tear those down, that job is over. Now there's another job, because now I'm in the tradition, and the job of seeing and opening my eyes to, even now that I should feel safe here, I don't. And now it's like, what do you do? So now it's like the work of uncovering what to do. And that's kind of like this latest job I had. The work to me is levels. But once I learned that wound, the work became healing the wound. And if my wound is rooted in a distrust of God, that means that my prayers need to be focused on trusting God, trusting the divine. So the psychedelic journey to me was work. It was work, because it it is, when people say journey, it is like Hunger Games journey. It's like that kind of journey. It's a psychedelic journey is not necessarily. It depends on the person. But for me, it was now this grief journey, right? And the work of finding out what to do about grief. Some people would have said, I'm not doing any of this. I'm going to go sit in my house and eat popcorn every night and ignore
Right.
everything that I just learned. So the work is acceptance. The work is releasing control.
Mm.
Anytime you get a reading and you trust the reader and whatever they're saying resonates with you, but you refuse to take the steps that are outlined in the reading, that means you are refusing to do the work.
That's a big one right there. That's because a lot of people go out and get readings wanting answers, but then when you tell them the truth and not, selling them a bill of goods, they don't do nothing about it to
Right,
make the changes. It's like you can't do that part.
right. So a lot of times the work is the obedience, but action. Okay, you can get a reading. You are obedient to get the reading, something that told you to get the reading. But it's usually, the work is usually the hardest thing that you are advised to do. For me, it was opening my eyes. Opening my eyes. And then without getting into too much details, eventually the messages, the site that I prayed for, because again, prayer is work. That's what they call us, prayer warriors. Okay. We have to work to really be brave enough to take the next steps. And for me, that was exiting the religion, exiting the tradition, and not the tradition. I like to be clear about that. It's the people, the community that I was in, that specific community. That's not easy. And that can take a while if you make that decision. So the work is how to know that you're making the right moves, but also at the end of the day, loving yourself, and not in this sort of narcissistic way. I'm not speaking of it in that way. I'm speaking about your heart, like your heart center, your heart chakra, and allowing love to come in to your heart, whether you practice meditation in the void or not. It's a neurological relationship as well, because it's this communication between these top, chakras and your bottom chakras, and the heart is the gateway. So you have to be able to open your heart to receive and for you to flow in between in order for you to move forward. And what I said sounds like, rhetoric, but it sounds like rhetoric because it sounds extremely hard, and I'm saying it in this like easy way. Open your heart. But if your wound is not necessarily mine, it could be yours. If your wound is rooted in distrust, uh, lack of self esteem, lack of feeling nurtured, being abandoned, if your wound is based and rooted in any of those things, me telling you to open your heart doesn't compute.
Right.
So
Especially
that's
the
why,
abandonment.
yes, the abandonment, the awareness, and then the acceptance, then the action. Because just taking blind action doesn't allow you to learn why you're even doing it. So that when
Mm,
you see the signs again, you wouldn't even know what to look for. If I find myself being too controlling, if I find myself not accepting love, if I find myself not being compassionate, that's me in my wound. If
mhm,
I find myself being hyper vigilant, that's me in my wound. Because fear is one of the features of all of our wounds. And when we become afraid to make a move, okay, based on that wound, that's how we know we're in it. And that's how we know you got to go back and do the work. But if you don't know the wound, you don't know the work. I really believe that.
mm. That was a good breakdown of that. Actually, I was expecting a cliche answer. like like we mostly, you got to do the work. You get told to do something, but that was really good. Like you said, really understanding the awareness, the understanding what the wound is, and then taking the action. And there's
Mhm.
some things in between there, depending on what that means for you. So
What that means for you.
I love that. That was deep, and I know my audience is gonna love that too.
Mhm.
Um, I just got, this has been an amazing conversation. Like, really, I got a lot out of it. A lot of what
Oh,
you were saying was
good.
for me. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
ancestors, I
me
hear you.
too. I'm speaking to you experientially.
Yeah, so I'm loving that, and so you're doing some amazing things. I want to know, tell my audience how they can find you, the type of work that you do.
Sure.
Yeah.
I am right now coming out of a purge. We had a 9 year last
Oh,
year.
girl. That's a little bit of residue still. The last 2 weeks, I was like, yeah, that's the last of the purge right there.
Yes, that's the shed, the purge, whatever you want to call it. I'm coming out of it feeling really good. I definitely recommend a good therapist. I'm totally someone who, not a lot of people in the spiritual streets, older spiritual streets, believe in that, but because it usually leads to some sort of disruption or dismantling of even their structures.
Right.
But I would recommend that for anyone. And I continue to see a therapist. I am last year with it being a 9. I had decided to be in flow. There was some things going on. I had already made some major decisions up here. I had vocalized them, so the throat was open. Uh, to a degree, and then when it was time to actually move, I ran into some issues. However, I've made it out. I feel free. I'm still a devotee of Orisha. I still stand firmly in my belief in their power, and especially their power in my life. So, Mefedefun, Obatala, Mefedefun, Oya. And I right now am, because of my wound, which lives in the fifth house, which is Leo's house. So think about Leo type things: creativity, creative expression, joy, pleasure, sex, love, all the good
Lucky
juicy
you.
things. Well, listen, I'm just saying that I'm living my Leo journey. I'm living in that house of fun, that house of pleasure. I've always been an artist. That's one of the things that kind of got cut through the poison of the adults in life. Brought art back into my life. I
I
am
love that.
writing. Yes, thank you. Writing is a big deal for me, but in a very different way. And obviously, my Substack is where this Gemini is living right now. I just trying to simplify a lot of things. I was all over the place. I had my farm community,
Yeah.
which is something I developed as a nonprofit 3 years ago, 4 years ago, actually, officially. Moved to Charleston, South Carolina, my ancestral home through my matrilineal line. And I am resting, and I am being a mentor and an elder to a lot of Black and Indigenous women who come to me seeking all kinds of things. Doesn't matter. So that's what I'm, a content creator. I told my daughter today, I'm a content creator. She's like, I love that for you, mommy.
Oh, that's
So
so good.
that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
I love that, and I love that for you too. Like the whole journey and the fact that you're getting the rest. I
Yeah.
think that I think a lot of us are really starting to settle into that because I truly feel like we're about to do some work after that, but we need this rest, man.
We need this
We
rest.
need this
We
rest.
we need this
We
rest.
need this rest,
And I don't care what anybody's saying out there. Where are they? Where are they? We
Yeah,
here,
we
resting,
right
taking care of
here.
our bodies, taking care of our
Yes.
bodies that have been used in this
Yes.
country specifically for labor.
Yep. I'm about to take a leap myself, and come out of corporate and back into business for myself. And so yeah, my paternal line working with me on that one. I love that.
Oh, that's where it
Um,
comes from. That's where the money.
yeah, yeah. So they over there like, yeah, get ready, and I'm like, I'm excited though, but
I'm
so
glad.
me too, because it's gonna allow me to be more in purpose as well.
Yes,
That'll
more
just kind of be
autonomous.
yeah, and I'm on my own time. Like I've always been this. Like before I worked for myself, I didn't really start working jobs until 2020. Kind of had to do what
Hmm.
I had to do, and before that, I was always spirit first. Like
Yeah,
everything, when I got up in the morning, I didn't do nothing until spirit stuff
yeah,
was taken care of. Then I dealt with people. Now all of a sudden, I got to get up, squeeze a meditation in, get some
yeah.
coffee, sit down, deal with white supremacy,
Right,
and
right.
being a high performing black woman in corporate,
Exactly.
and they stealing and
Yes.
siphoning all my ideas
Yeah.
and spiritual warfare all over the place.
Yes.
It's
You
like
know what? I
no.
know where you are. I know where you are, and I'm so glad you are making moves to skedaddle.
Exit left.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you. And you
That's something.
too.
Yeah, it's needed. I'm still there. I got a pinky toe.
I know.
Scrolling
Well, yeah,
there.
we got to do what we got to do to
We
pay them
gotta do what
bills and
we gotta do.
be comfortable.
Exactly. You know what? That's a blessing as well because of the situation of the world right now. A lot of people can't say that.
That's
So
true.
I am thankful to whatever divine energies that is keeping me there. Because as soon as they're ready for me to go, they're gonna let me know. It's that simple.
True.
You know
That's
how they're
true.
gonna let me know? They're gonna let it rain. So when it start raining,
That's right. I love it. Well,
make better
thank you so much.
decisions.
I
Yeah.
know. I mean, but you know what? I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I know my
Me
audience will
too.
too. Once again, y'all know I'm going to have her information all down in the description. The Hungry Medium, Cat,
Thank
the
you.
priestess, Batala priestess. And yeah, definitely look her up. And me too. I'll be down there as well. Y'all know where to find me. And that's pretty much it until the next episode, y'all.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.